Every leader eventually comes to a decision point. At some point, you have to choose, am I going to let this thing win, or am I going to take control of it and become the leader I want to be? For Tiffany, that thing was fear. We heard her go through her fear journey and face her fear head on. For me, that thing is anxiety, and for years I let it win, until I had a choice to make. I'm Kyler Mason, and this is my takeover of Scared Confident.
I'm a husband, father, friend, son, and I don't like to take things too serious. Love to joke around. I kind of the antithesis of the corporate suit. I enjoy a lot of different things. I'm kind of a collection of things you wouldn't probably put together commonly. Like I enjoy gardening, sports, betting, cryptocurrency, a lot of things that would be stereotypes of certain people that just kind of end up as interests of mine. I'm a very curious person.
A couple things that I think about as a kid. I wanted to be an adult, which is weird. Maybe it's a firstborn thing, but I would sit at the top of the stairs and listen to my parents' conversations about, I don't know, the things they talk about as adults, and sneak around to just listen in on conversations. I remember them being like, don't you want to go play with your cousins or whatever? And I would, at that stage, just want to know what the adults were talking about. I would have looked back, at least as a young kid, and considered myself entrepreneurial. Probably would have, toward high school, started to see that show up. My dad, he ran a handful of small businesses across different industries. Very much looked for opportunity in the marketplace and didn't really care how sexy the industry was. So, for example, he owned a dry cleaners. He had some websites that sold product in a couple different industries and a few other things. But I did find with my dad and what he was doing, he was trying to get me to help. I'm free labor pretty much. But the help wasn't probably what you would expect a typical high schooler to be doing. It wasn't manual labor. I had to learn how to host websites and run paid media. I had spreadsheets that I started to put together that demonstrated the funnel and how many leads we were getting and the sales per product and stuff like that. I had no idea at the time was going to be a valuable skill. I don't know that I would call that even entrepreneurial until I started to have an opinion about, hey, you could make more money with doing these things, because I was starting to learn stuff and had an opinion about the products that he had that would sell better. This is funny because Tiffany, back in the early days, she said that I was a few decisions away from being a drug dealer.
Kyler, he is this hard to describe combination of your classic, highly responsible, highly aware, very accountable firstborn, and this reckless idiot that gets himself into a profound number of completely avoidable situations.
I went to a lot of concerts in high school, and so I got to tie this back to my dad's businesses. One of his websites sold personalized merchandise. So the way that you would personalize it is with this laser engraver. So I went to these concerts and I was talking to one of my buddies. I was like, we could probably put some of the band's logos on these dog tags and stuff like that, and slang some of this.
I think sometimes he's just I don't know, decides he's gonna take a risk and just test it.
So I figured out how to gear this laser up, and learned Photoshop to crop out the band images and stuff like that. So we took all this stuff and walked up and down the tailgate aisles at different venues across the Midwest. We traveled around to do this. There were no set prices for what we were selling, so we would size up the situation, estimate how big of a fan they were, and then price those things on the spot.
Something about him is just I think he has to have a place in his life where there's a little bit of recklessness for him to feel like it's all working for him.
We were in Michigan at a Dave Matthews concert, and the security started to kind of hover around, what is going on here? And we realized this is not allowed. And they started chasing us, and we ran and hid behind cars in the parking lot, and decided this is probably not something we should be doing.
So that's why I said that. Like, I do think he's a couple of choices in his past self away from being a drug dealer, where like, if something would have tipped wrong, he's so loyal that he would have been like, I'm here now, I'm gonna be the best, I'm finishing it out, this is what I'm doing. And that's what would have happened.
So that was an odd angle at entrepreneurship. I'm probably gonna like go to jail for copyright infringement. Baseball was life. I spent a lot of time in like the structured environment, practicing, getting better, and also a lot of time on my own. Like from weightlifting and training on that end to just the skills of what's needed. I was a catcher, so a lot of drills involved in that, and then working to become a better hitter. I probably played 100 games a year through junior high to high school. I remember we were in just a big game in high school, probably the largest like crowd that I had played in front of, and I just like could not get over this feeling. I had no idea what it was at the time, and I like forgot how to even throw the ball back to the pitcher. So I was like so anxious about it, and that like came and went really fast. And it didn't present itself again until college, where if you're familiar with sports, that's called the yips. It is a very embarrassing thing to have. To do a thing probably millions of times, throw the ball back to the pitcher, and then be overcome with anxiety that like shuts your brain down is a very frustrating thing. The feelings were all over the place. I remember just being like, please just take me out of the game. Please take me out of the game. I remember like trying a lot of things, like trying to trick my brain out of it. I remember being incredibly like disappointed in myself, embarrassed. It's ultimately what led me to stop playing baseball. Like, I don't know that I've actually ever said that before. I did not want to go through another season as a catcher having to deal with, or am I going to have the yips again? So I just was like, I'll move on. So my senior year of college, my dad passed away, which was like a huge event for me and my family. He and I were very, very close. I would talk to him about all things all the time. I probably talked to him every day on the phone, at least. And talk to him about the presentations I'm giving, the decisions I was contemplating making about, even right before he died, I made the decision to come work at Element 3. So that was some like final advice he got to give me. I was pretty mature and responsible for my age, but the rate at which I had to grow up and be a new role for my family was fairly profound, I guess. I needed to show up in different ways for my mom. I like moved back in with my mom for a little while, just to be there. And my two brothers, I'm the oldest of three. So that presented just like a new challenge and identity that I had to process. I think that it brought us closer, unfortunately, because each of us, there's like roughly 3 years apart. So like just enough time to be in very different life stages growing up. My dad had cancer. So during it and after, I think definitely brought us closer. I think we all also recognized that we had a particular role to play with my mom. People talk about this, but my memory during that time is so terrible. It's such a blur. I don't know how, but I still found a way to be productive and ambitious, which I think I like had told myself stories like, this is what my dad would say to me, like, do these things, act this way, prioritize these things. So I think all things considered, my mental state was pretty damn good. I think helped me stay on the right track. I also talked about losing my dad all of the time. It was something I enjoyed when people would ask me about. It's kind of sounds weird, but I enjoyed talking about the things that I admired in him and things he taught me and stuff like that. He had a very, very abundant mindset, which I think mostly transferred to me. He was very optimistic and had a view on the world that you can accomplish so much in life that you should dream big and take the chances that you want. I remember him saying something along the lines of, like, you could have 5 different professional careers easily in the span of your full career. Like, it's like if you wanted to decide to go be a doctor after doing what you're doing now, like, you could make that choice. So he had a view on the world in your life in a way that was very abundant. Dad passed away like right at the end of my senior year, and then from there I had made the decision to go work at Element 3, and that was a wild time to change jobs. Like, I couldn't have been like less productive for the first few months. And super thankful for Tiffany and Karen at the time, because I let them know what was going on and they were very helpful. And then it would have been probably 3 years into working at Element 3 when Morgan and I met.
I am Morgan, and I am Kyler's wife. We've been together, 8 years now, almost 3 years married.
We met through just like mutual friends. She likes to say that she tried to introduce herself and that I blew her off, and I don't remember it. I believe her, but she tells me that story and others that story every once in a while. And then actually, same group of friends was hanging out on New Year's.
Because we met on New Year's Eve. We had mutual friends. We ended up at the same party, and we talked all night. We talked about our families, our jobs, all that fun stuff, and then exchanged phone numbers. And he called me to ask me out on a date. Like, I have never had a guy call me to ask me out on a date. So right then I was like, I think he's different. He's different from other guys that I've been with, or even guys that I've hung out with. So I knew right away that there was something unique about him. He was also so much more mature, I feel like, than a lot of guys his age, a lot of guys that I spent time with. I knew right away that he was different.
And that is when I actually like talked to her, and then she and I spent I don't know, many hours like getting to know each other for the first time on New Year's, however many years ago, probably 7-ish years ago. We dated for, I want to say 4 or 5 years.
I always said, I was like, I am going to marry a guy that's just like my dad. And when I met Kyler, I was like, well, okay, we're good. We're good there. He is the most hardworking, the most loyal, the most passionate person that I've ever met. And he's so goofy and fun. And I feel like a lot of people don't get to see that side of him. Like, I get to see that. And we'll joke sometimes, like, he'll do something really weird at home. And I'm like, you run a company. He makes me want to be the best version of myself, too. Sometimes it drives me nuts when he pushes me, and I'm like, back off. But he wants to be the best version of himself, and so he pushes everyone around him to also be the best version of themselves.
And then I proposed, and we had a fairly long engagement that went into COVID. So we were trying to plan a wedding through COVID, which was an event.
I do remember when we were getting married. Like, it was leading up to our wedding. There was a lot going on. The pandemic was happening because we got married in 2020.
A lot of like big things were happening in my life. And I was, I think, coming out of an executive team meeting, like just got added to the team. Nothing like intense that I can remember was like going on during that meeting. But I just got added to the executive team. I was taking on some new responsibilities at work. And I also was planning my wedding with Morgan. So big life changes in job and life. We also had just moved. So like just a lot of big things. I didn't realize this until afterward. So I had been having I would just call like subtle panic attacks. I don't even know if that's a thing, but just have moments where I would be either in a meeting or at home. It wasn't like some big event. It definitely wasn't when I was like presenting, and would have just like a tight chest and sweaty hands and be like, just get over it. And that would work usually.
I was like, are you having doubts? Like, what's going on? And he was like, no, not at all. It's just a lot. And we were navigating, can we have a wedding? Can we not have a wedding? We're paying for the wedding. We're about to get married, have this really serious thing happen. So that was when I noticed it, is just that physical response to like the not sleeping well and the waking up sweating or having a panic attack. And then he would withdraw a little bit.
I came out of an executive meeting one day and just went and sat at my desk and I was like feeling dizzy. My chest was tight. It was like super sweaty. And I was like, this is not normal. Next time on Scared Confident.
He had an episode where he went to the hospital.
That was really scary for me because, I mean, how do you help? Besides just getting him there.
I said, Tiffany, if I were you, I would not let me be the president or an owner until I get this like anxiety thing figured out.
I think that, he had a choice to make.